You've probably seen a video like this floating around your YouTube recommended section. This Minecraft challenge has gained so much popularity over the past few years that even people like MrBeast started doing it. And one day I thought to myself, hey, this looks easy, maybe I could try it. Well, it's not easy, and I actually failed it, but I spent so much time working on the video, I thought I might as well show it to you anyway. Well, yeah, here it is. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so it started off pretty normally, as any 100 days hardcore world would begin. Firstly, I got quite annoyed at the spawn point. Oh my, are you kidding me? Nope, not getting these trees. It's literally all birch. The game's trolling me. You know, classic hardcore stuff. Luckily, I did manage to find a better biome at some point. I began to cut down some more trees and gather some resources for the first night in this world. I also built this little house thing and gathered some more resources for the night. I also didn't have any coal, so I headed into this cave to gather some. It seemed to get dark pretty quickly, so I held out in my bunker until the morning. Ha, psych! I actually got really bored and headed back down to the cave to try to find some more resources. I got some iron and coal and headed down and found a lush caves biome. After heading even further down, I found my first diamonds, but I couldn't mine them because I wasn't bothered crafting an iron pickaxe just yet. I found a mine shaft and a dungeon down here also. These would both play a significant part to the remainder of this challenge. Then I spent absolutely ages exploring the mine shaft and gathering more resources. I also tried to block my way back up to the surface, but I got really bored and gave up. I then proceeded to return to the top of the overworld, where the new morning had just begun. I then brought the stuff from my old bunker down into the dungeon to try to set up a permanent base. I tried to do some more exploring, but ended up nearly dying to a horde of mobs that wanted to kill me. After using my epic parkour skills to escape the mobs, I returned to my dungeon home. I also got the chance to smelt some iron and make some more iron weapons and tools. I then got this pickaxe which I never named, but I accidentally left it in a chest and it should still be there right now. Eventually, I found my first diamonds. Well, my second technically, but yeah, you get what I mean. I could actually mine these ones. I headed back to base and put my diamond in the chest to keep it safe, which was a good idea since I nearly died again trying to get the other diamond from earlier. I then went back up top to go get some more resources, but I gotta be honest, I spent a lot of time just walking around. Eventually, it started to get dark, so I set up camp by the side of the river. I was also nearly out of food, so I went around trying to kill some mobs. And why did I need these mobs loot? To craft a fishing rod, of course. I then spent literally the next whole night fishing. The next day I continued scavenging and actually got some wool that I could later use to craft a bed. After collecting the resources, I headed back down to the dungeon. I then started trying to make the dungeon look nicer and more like a home. This took way longer than I would have thought. I also used birch wood to do this, and looking back, I think this was a weird choice seeing as I got really annoyed when I spawned in a birch biome at the start. Oh my, are you kidding me? After I finished this, I went to get some gold. I used this gold to craft a clock which I could use to tell the time, because that's what clocks do. I then spent some more time exploring and even found some more diamonds. Every once in a while I would come back and try to do some more work on my house, but to be fair, it was mostly just walking around and gathering resources. I then spent way too long chopping wood. Once I got back down to base, I spent even longer working on my house with the wood I'd collected before. In fact, I actually ran out of wood near the end, so I went out to find some more, and then got distracted by the giant cave that I had seen before. I did in fact find some more areas I didn't know existed, but then I realized that I still had some wood in my inventory, so I went back to continue working on my base. It got a bit boring, so I left and went and wasted some of my torches, and then came back a few minutes later. I went back up top to gather some coal, which to be honest I ran out of again really quickly. I also found the time to cut down some more birch trees, which I guess was nice. It got dark, so I headed back down to the dungeon and built the sweetberry farm, which I used literally only twice. And then once again I spent about half an hour trying to make the base look nicer. I even made some spaces where I could put a water elevator, an enchantment room, and a nether portal in my base. I even did some exploring, got some diamonds, and rediscovered that old lava-filled place that I had seen earlier. I found this big lava pool that I could use to get obsidian, which would help me get to the nether and craft an enchanting table, but I wasn't ready to get the obsidian yet, and I didn't have the correct resources for it. I then also went on a murder spree and killed some defenseless animals for food. After I had killed them, I returned to the dungeon to cook their meat and also make an enchanting room. I also finally gained enough resources to go back down into the mines and to get some obsidian, which again I would use to make a nether portal and an enchantment table. After I had gathered the obsidian, I headed back to the dungeon to enter the nether. It wasn't the best spawn, to be honest. I did not have the confidence to explore deeper into the nether, so I came back to the overworld and crafted an enchanting table, which I could use later. I also came up with a plan to get some more coal for torches, but I ended up just setting myself on fire quite a lot. I proceeded to nearly die a few times, and then returned back down to the dungeon. I then made some questionable finance decisions, but also built up a better storage system within my base. I also gathered some sand, which I needed to make some glass. I was then able to craft some glass panes, which I used to finish off the center of my base. After this, I decided to go back down into the Deep Slate Caves, but I didn't stay long. By now it was around day 15, and I headed back into the nether to construct a sort of base near the spawn. I mined a little, nearly died, then got quite annoyed when I found out that magma blocks could produce like 5 light points. I left the nether and decided to go back on another lumberjacking spree, even though I don't think I really even needed that much wood. It got dark after that, and despite the danger, I decided to head out in search of some sugarcane and meat. While I was hunting, I found a ruined nether portal, which had a chest with some very, very nice shoes in it. I headed back to the dungeon and crafted the sugarcane into paper, which I could use to make bookshelves to power the enchantment table. I could have made a farm with the sugarcane, but I wasn't bothered. I then made one of the worst decisions I've ever made, and headed into the nether again. I knew there were piglins around the nether, so I wore the gold shoes I got earlier, but I did not account for the fact that there would probably be hoglins in the nether too. Okay, play the clip. No! It was at this moment I knew that I had failed the challenge, but without a doubt, I also knew that I was one day try again. But before I go, look how I got that advancement right to the end. That shows skill.